Always remember, the universe has a way of leading you to where you're supposed to be at the moment you're supposed to be there.
Let's do this.
What was interesting to me was I was such a fan of the original franchise. I was 14 when the first one came out, and so being a true fan of it and having the opportunity to not reboot or remake it, but to expand on that universe was the biggest opportunity.
I think it's really, global in scope, which adds a new element. Obviously, Chris and I take over the helm from some pretty big shoes, but I think that adds a real new, fresh dynamic to the piece. We have tons of new aliens and gadgets, and I think the film is fresh because it's made at this time with a more modern sensibility. Obviously, there's always been women inside of the organization. There's never been a female protagonist inside of one of these films. I think that's really new and original.
To have, Tessa right, front and center of this thing was, I think, what made it feel fresh and unique to us. And who better than her? She embodies kind of everything that's right about that statement in itself.
What I like about it is that it's not a reboot, it's a continuation, but it's a much bigger scope, so it's all over the world. It's not just one city, it's new teams, a lot of new types of aliens, new threats. So that's what I like about it, is that it exists in the Men in Black universe. We're not erasing anything, but we're just expanding it.
You don't even think you have to work a second when you actually just feed on your good character. We were so in it that sometimes I believe outside I had a superpower. It works. It was amazing. It works. It was amazing.
I think the big defining thing about Men in Black is that it's very, very funny. So this one is also very, very funny. It's a lot of jokes, I mean, if there were aliens on Earth hiding, there would be funny stuff that would happen, and this movie really gets to that.
To give it a more of a global feel, take that in New York. We shot in Italy and London and Marrakesh and Morocco and Sahara Desert, Paris. The comedy, the fun, the adventure. We had a blast making it, and I think it's a blast seeing it.
That doesn't look good.
Do we think anyone's going to notice that wasn't there before?
We're in Bali with the Men in Black, I was going to say premiere, but it's more of a red carpet fan event. This is the first time I think a big studio has come and done something in Indonesia, so it's very exciting to be here. Bali, Indonesia is pretty close to my heart. I've spent a lot of time here, got married here, and learned Indonesian in primary school and high school. I didn't retain a whole lot of it, but I've done a lot of surf trips here and love the place. Very excited. I love the original films and what Tommy Lee Jones and Will Smith had set up, and this was an opportunity to do something different again and expand on that universe they created, and I think we're all pretty excited. It's a lot of the huge comedic element, but a lot of action and adventure and fun. So, come on.
Well, it's not going to save itself.
This story begins in Brooklyn, New York, with young Molly, who has this encounter with an alien that sets her on her journey to Men in Black. And it's completely crazy, but it's really cool.
It took me 20 years to find you. How many people can say that?
When we meet Molly as an adult, she's a scientist. She's really accomplished and has taken the academic route, but only really in the pursuit of Men in Black. And she tries all these organizations. She tries the CIA, the FBI. I mean, she would try the DMV if she thought that it would get her to MIB. And all of those things proved to be a dead end. And so she's found herself in a dead end job, working in telemarketing, just to sort of make ends meet, but she's still really actively in the pursuit of finding the organization and is able to do that by, you know, her craftiness and has sort of the gusto to go into the organization, which to her is just like, I mean, it's all that she's ever wanted.
But she, unlike Will's character or any other Men in Black agent, actually had an encounter with an alien as a very young girl and was not neuralized, and spent the next 20 years trying to find the Men in Black, believing there was something out there. And it's strange that changed the entire kind of energy of the movie in a really interesting way.
She definitely has her reservations about him. You know, initially she's excited to try and be on the mission, but very quickly kind of thinks, hang on, something doesn't add up here. This guy is not quite what he's all cracked up to be, and she sees through the facade, or the sort of, you know, the bigger lie. She doesn't know why, but eventually she figures that out. Agent
H, it leads with his, you know, leads with his heart and his emotions, and he's less rational, and I think it makes for some cool interplay between them. And they have some really different fundamental ideas about what's important in the world, and I think in the course of the movie they both, you know, kind of bring each other over to their side, respectively, which is cool.
Catching up on my daily meditation. Time for lunch, I think. You hungry?
It's 9:30.
Perfect. Tuesday's taco day.
So Pawnee's a little alien character who was a pawn. He has spent his whole life on a chessboard serving his queen, and I think I can say this in the beginning of the film. Well, not in the beginning, but when they meet me, my queen has just been murdered by the baddies. And so I pledge loyalty to Tessa Thompson's character, and then she sort of becomes my queen. And for the first time in his life, he gets to leave the chessboard and experience the actual world.
Adventure and stunts and action goes hand in hand with Men in Black. And obviously I have a little bit of a background in comedy and specifically action. So I was attracted to this project for that reason, to be able to fuse comedy and action.
I've always loved the original films. You know, I saw them at an age where they just struck me, the whole world and how imaginative they were. And I knew that F. Gary Gray was attached, and some of his work, I mean, from like the first TLC video that I saw on really, you know, waterfalls, which meant so much to me as a kid, F. Gary directed. And I just thought it was so interesting to take a filmmaker like him and take this beloved franchise. And at that point I knew that Chris was in the conversation, and he and I just enjoy working together so much. So all of the elements together, it was sort of a resounding yes for me.
What was appealing about this was the combination of comedy, of heart, of action, sci-fi, but sort of, you know, grounded in the urban aesthetic that we've seen in the previous ones. The opportunity to you know, the franchise that has such a big following and such a, you know, beloved series of films and characters, to try and continue that on in some way and make it unique and fresh, and try and find something different for that world. It was part of the appeal, or one of the strengths in making this different, not feel like we were mimicking what had been done before. Just to aesthetically give it a different tone and feel, just by going to different countries, in London and Italy and Morocco and Paris and New York, informs a sort of different attitude within the characters too. You know, you do react within your environment to the environment, and certainly, you know, when we've come from London in the back lot of the studio, and all of a sudden we're in Italy on the coastline, there's a whole different energy.
Yeah.
You know? And I love that, and it's one of the sort of, you know, wonderful things about being an actor is being able to sort of globe trot around the place and have someone else pay for it.
True.
This is a global organization. We told the story of the New York branch in the first three, but we never assumed that was the only branch on the planet. And once we made the decision, which was very much embraced by the studio, given what's happened in the movie business, it's very much a global market now, it also presented a whole pathway to go down that without which we'd still be writing it.
For Men in Black International, we said we're going to take this to London, to Morocco, to Paris, and a few other places, and not only give you great characters, but give you action, that has some comedy infused in it, and that was really important for the story.